Golden Age actors who had secret affairs with men. The cameras were rolling, the lights were blinding, and America's favorite leading men were selling charm, masculinity, and heterosexual dreams. But behind the velvet curtain of Hollywood's golden age, there were secrets, deep, scandalous, and forbidden. What if I told you some of the most iconic heartthrobs of the silver screen were hiding affairs that could have ended their careers overnight? Tonight, we're peeling back the celluloid to expose the hidden romances, the secret rendezvous. Are you ready to hear what Hollywood never wanted you to know? Rock Hudson. He had the jawline of a Greek god, the stature of a cowboy, and the charm of every American woman's dream. Rock Hudson was the poster boy for masculine perfection, but Hollywood knew he wasn't the man the public thought he was. Behind closed doors, Hudson lived a double life, carefully curated by studio heads and press agents. He dated actresses on red carpets by night and loved men in secrecy by candlelight. Did you know his agent, Henry Wilson, orchestrated fake relationships to shield his star? Hudson's alleged long-term romance with a man named Lee Garlington remained a hidden chapter until years after Rock's death. When the AIDS crisis hit and Hudson became one of its first public casualties, the mask finally cracked. America didn't just lose a star, it lost an illusion. And for the first time, the public faced the truth behind the Hollywood fantasy machine. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott. You've seen the photos. Two impossibly handsome men lounging shirtless by the pool, smiling in a dreamy California haze. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott weren't just roommates. They were a domestic dream, or a studio nightmare, depending on who you asked. Paramount called it a publicity problem. Fans called it charming. Hollywood insiders whispered, "They're more than friends." The pair shared a beach house, a bank account, and matching robes. Studios forced Grant into a series of hasty marriages, while Scott played the silent cowboy who never quite settled down. Their relationship wasn't just a scandal waiting to happen. It was a scandal that never stopped. Cary once said, "I don't believe in marriage." Maybe he meant he wasn't allowed to believe. Whatever the truth, their bond endured longer than most of their Hollywood marriages. Was it love, devotion, or a deep pact to survive a hostile world? Only the shadows of their Malibu hideaway know. James Dean. James Dean was the original Hollywood bad boy. Brooding, intense, a symbol of misunderstood masculinity. But James wasn't just rebelling on screen. Off-screen, he defied every rule, including who he loved. In the 1950s, queerness was career suicide, yet Dean moved through circles of power and pleasure with confidence. Did you know he was rumored to have relationships with director Rogers Brackett and fellow actors who dared not speak a word? There were whispers of private parties, hushed affairs, and a refusal to conform. When asked about his sexuality, Dean reportedly said, "No, I am not a homosexual, but I'm also not going through life with one hand tied behind my back." That quote says everything and nothing. Like a good method actor, Dean knew how to keep the audience guessing. His life was a script half-written, but his secrets full of plot twists. Anthony Perkins and Tab Hunter. Before Psycho turned him into cinema's most infamous mama's boy, Anthony Perkins was a tender, introspective man caught in a storm of rising fame, inner torment, and a love he could never fully claim. Enter Tab Hunter, sun-kissed, chiseled, and every inch the studio's dreamboat. But behind that glossy image, he was just a boy in love with another boy. And that boy was Tony. Their romance bloomed in shadows. They snuck around like spies, using side doors, coded phone calls, and late-night rendezvous far from prying eyes. Tab was already skating on thin ice. He'd been arrested at a gay party, a scandal that almost ended his career. Perkins, deeply closeted and increasingly under studio control, was warned to distance himself from any whiff of controversy. The pressure was relentless. They were young, beautiful, and in love, but Hollywood made them feel like criminals. In Tab Hunter Confidential, Hunter finally broke the silence. Yes, they were lovers. And though Perkins eventually married a woman, many close to him believed he never stopped loving Tab. It's a love story drowned in fear, romantic, tragic, and haunting. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was more than a matinee idol. He was a revelation. With his soulful eyes and raw vulnerability, he brought a new kind of masculinity to the screen, one filled with tenderness, depth, and aching realism. But while audiences fell in love with the sensitive outsider he so often portrayed, few knew he was living a double life behind the camera. Clift was gay in an era when being out could end your career or your life. He moved quietly through a network of trusted friends, including the fiercely loyal Elizabeth Taylor, who once called him her soulmate. His affairs with men like famed choreographer Jerome Robbins and adventures of Superman star Jack Larson were kept hidden, not because of shame, but because the world wouldn't allow them to be real. Everything changed in 1956. A near-fatal car crash left Monty's face disfigured and his spirit fractured. After that, his performances took on a haunted edge. Watch The Misfits or Judgment at Nuremberg, and you'll see it. The pain behind the eyes, the beauty behind the sorrow. He wasn't just acting, he was bleeding truth, and Hollywood didn't know what to do with it. Salmineo was more than a teenage heartthrob. He was a trailblazer, a rebel in every sense of the word. With olive skin, dark curls, and smoldering eyes, he shattered Hollywood's whitewashed norms, becoming one of the first major teen idols of color. But it wasn't just his heritage that made waves. It was the characters he chose to play. In Rebel Without a Cause, his portrayal of Plato, deeply coded as queer, wasn't just subtext, it was subversion. Off-camera, Mineo refused to pretend. Among friends, he was openly gay at a time when the industry punished truth with silence. He took roles that other actors wouldn't touch: sensitive boys, tortured outsiders, characters with emotional depth that mirrored his own. As studios turned their backs, his star dimmed, but Sal never stopped pushing. In the 1970s, he was on the cusp of a major comeback, directing and acting with renewed purpose. Then, one night in 1976, everything ended. Stabbed in an alleyway behind his apartment, Sal Mineo's life was cut short at 37. Though the crime was officially ruled a robbery, many still believe hate was the true motive. His legacy? A defiant honesty that still echoes through Hollywood's guarded walls. Ramon Novarro. Long before Rock, before Dean, there was Ramon Novarro, the silent film sensation with smoldering eyes and a secret life. Novarro was a major star in the 1920s, playing biblical heroes and romantic leads. But behind closed doors, he struggled with his identity, his faith, and the industry's brutal double standards. He remained celibate for years, tormented by Catholic guilt. Later, he cautiously embraced his sexuality, but it cost him everything. In 1968, he was murdered by two brothers he had hired through an escort ad. They believed he had a hidden fortune, rumored to be hush money from MGM. They tortured him for hours. When he died, the press printed every lurid detail, but skipped the part about how Hollywood turned its back on him long before. William Haynes. William Haynes was once one of MGM's biggest stars and one of the first to be openly gay in private life. Unlike others, he didn't hide. He lived openly with his partner, Jimmy Shields, refusing to beard or deny who he was. MGM head Louis B. Mayer gave him an ultimatum: give up Shields or give up Hollywood. Haynes chose love. He left acting and built a second career as an interior designer to the stars. Even Joan Crawford, his lifelong friend, called their relationship the happiest marriage in Hollywood. William Haynes was never ashamed, and in an era built on lies, that made him revolutionary. George Nader. George Nader had everything it took to be a leading man: sharp jawline, deep voice, and the kind of screen presence that made casting directors sit up. He was poised to be the next big thing, riding high on a string of action films and sci-fi hits. But in 1955, Confidential magazine, Hollywood's most feared gossip rag, threatened to out Rock Hudson, Universal's golden goose. The studio panicked. They needed someone to feed to the wolves. That someone was George Nader. Nader, also gay and close to Hudson, became the studio's sacrificial lamb. His name started appearing in Confidential, and the roles dried up almost overnight. There were no explanations, no protection, just silence. Hollywood turned its back, and so George quietly stepped away from the spotlight and built a quiet life in Hawaii with his longtime partner, Mark Miller, a relationship that lasted over 50 years. Years later, when Rock Hudson died of AIDS, his will revealed a surprising gesture, a significant inheritance left to Nader. It wasn't public praise, but it was acknowledgement, gratitude, a final silent thank you. George Nader didn't just vanish, he was erased, but he walked away with his dignity intact. In an industry built on betrayal, his story is one of rare loyalty. Richard Chamberlain. Richard Chamberlain was the golden boy of television, a prince in The Thornbirds, a swashbuckler in The Count of Monte Cristo, and every woman's dream in Dr. Kildare. He had the looks, the talent, the grace. But what he didn't have was freedom. Behind the curtain of fame, Chamberlain lived in a cage of fear. At a time when being gay was a professional death sentence, he perfected the art of illusion. Romantic interviews, public appearances with female co-stars, carefully crafted bachelor mystique, it was all theater. He had long-term partners, including producer Martin Rabbit, with whom he shared a life for decades. But the world never saw the truth. In 2003, at the age of 69, Chamberlain released his memoir, Shattered Love, and finally came out to the public. He confessed that his silence wasn't shame, it was survival. "I was afraid it would destroy my career," he wrote, and maybe it would have. His story isn't about scandal. It's about the cost of being forced to pretend. How many smiles were forced? How many moments of love kept in the shadows? For Chamberlain, the greatest role he ever played was himself, kept hidden until the final act. They were legends, icons, rebels, and prisoners of a system that couldn't accept their truth. Behind the glitz of Golden Age Hollywood was a deeper drama, one of love denied, secrets guarded, and courage hidden in plain sight. And now that the reels have stopped spinning, we're finally hearing the stories they couldn't tell. So which star's secret surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and remember, Hollywood always had two scripts, the one you saw and the one you were never meant to read.